If I lose, I pretend I am a milk tank. I guess somebody wants some moo milk after losing. Did you know that Youngster Joey is a masochist, or that Misty mistreats her Pokémon? The Pokémon world would be nothing without its NPCs. Some of them guide you throughout your adventure and provide you with important tools. However, others will try to annoy you, falsely accuse you, make you question your life choices, and say the most brutally offensive and nonsensical things you've ever heard. In this Iceberg, we'll take a look at the funniest, most lobotomized and darkest NPCs in the history of the Pokémon franchise. Welcome to the Pokémon NPC Iceberg.
Say my name. Iceberg. You're goddamn right.
Eric and Sarah. Eric and Sarah may sound like important NPCs in Red, Blue, Yellow and the remakes because we can read their names in their dialogue, but in fact they're completely irrelevant to the main adventure and they're not even part of any side quests. We first encounter Eric wondering where Sarah is, as he told her they'd met outside the Safari Zone. Once we are in the Safari Zone, if we enter the closest rest house to the entrance, we'll find Sarah, asking where Eric went. I guess there was a bit of miscommunication. In the Japanese version, the misunderstanding derives from the fact that the word tori means both bird and obtain. Eric meant to arrive in Fuchsia City by using a bird Pokémon, while Sarah understood obtain Pokémon as in catching them. As a result, she ended up waiting for him inside the Safari Zone. The German version is even funnier. The German idiom mal im Mondschein begegnen, meaning meet in the moonlight, actually means get lost. It seems that Eric didn't get what she really meant, so we see him waiting for her in Fuchsia City, further commenting that it doesn't get dark regardless of how much he waits, referencing the fact that there's no day and night cycle in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. If we talk to Sarah, she'll say something like, I wonder if Eric understood that nothing is going to happen between us. After I rejected him, he strolled away beaming with joy. Strange. Accusatory NPCs. You looked at me, didn't you? What are you talking about? I did the opposite of looking at you. That look you gave me, it's so intriguing. But I was just staring at a wall. Eek, did you touch me? No. In any case, it was you who did when you approached me. You know what's funny about these three NPCs? That they all are on the same route. I'm not sure if Mount Moon emits some sort of radiation that's affecting their brains, but well, maybe it's not that, because deeper in the iceberg, you'll see that these dialogues are nothing compared to what you'll see. Catching Tutorial Old Man. What would I be without the old man blocking the path in Viridian City? I think I would still be training my Pokémon in Red and Blue, because the rare candies, vitamins and nuggets I got from Missing No saved years of my life. That and the Dodrio Tower. Besides being known for obstructing a public space in the name of coffee and being drunk in the Japanese version, this old man also helps us get access to Missing No by watching him catch a Pokémon. Without a doubt, one of the most useful NPCs in Pokémon history. Shorts Obsession. Hey, you're not wearing shorts. This sounds as if it were illegal not to wear shorts in Kanto, but I guess coming from a youngster that wears shorts even in winter, I guess it must be a crime. Youngster Ben is another popular character among Pokémon fans due to its "Hi, I like shorts, they're comfy and easy to wear" quote. Actually, there's a lady in Humilo City that will replicate Ben's words by saying, "This dress is comfy and easy to wear." Top percentage Rattata. Youngster Joey is the first regular trainer we battle in the Johto games and the remakes. After losing to Youngster Mikey, Joey believes he can beat us, not only because we look weak, but also because he thinks his Rattata is unlike any other, claiming it's in the top percentage of all Rattata. Unfortunately for Joey, that doesn't count for much. Unless his Rattata is holding a focus sash and knows Endeavor and Quick Attack, a Rattata is still a Rattata. White Hand. No, it's not the creepypasta, but the hand that appears in the main character's shoulder in the Kanto games. It seems that people in Lavender Town are used to this kind of phenomena because the little girl doesn't look fazed by the sight of a detached hand. A similar occurrence happens in Pokémon Origins, since we can see a white hand on Red's shoulder. Old Man in Vermilion City. I've spoken about this old man in previous Icebergs pre-Pokopia, so I'm gonna update myself as well as those who haven't had a chance to play it. There's an old man in Vermilion City that since Gen 1 has been trying to construct a building with his Machop. Even 3 years after, he and his Pokémon haven't been able to keep going with the project due to a lack of money. However, in a distant future in what remains of Vermilion City in Pokopia, we find a human record that talks about Kenzo, a man who with the aid of his Machamp was able to construct the largest building in the area. Thirsty guards. What kind of guard do you need to be to prevent people from walking to the next city through a public road? In the Pokemon world, a thirsty one. In fact, 4 of them from all cardinal points. Some people say the guards don't let the player pass because Team Rocket is blocking the road, and that once you give the guards a drink, Team Rocket just happens to move out of the way. It's full of women. This old man reminds me of Master Roshi or Brock, because when we talk to him outside of the Celadon gym, he'll happily mention that the gym is great because it's full of women. Yeah, I guess saying that the gym is full of girls was definitely less politically correct, but never mind, because in Gold, Silver and Crystal, he'll say that the gym is great because only girls are allowed there. As time went by, it was expected that Game Freak changed this, and from Heart Gold and Soul Silver onward, they changed the line of dialogue to "This gym is great, it's full of strong trainers." Mindy. Mindy is such a classic character that probably needs no introduction. Basically, she appeared to have one of the most appealing traits in Pokemon history, besides the Machoke we get in Pokemon Yellow as a trait and that evolved into a Machamp. In this case, however, the purpose of this trait is to upset the player by making a hunter hold an Everstone, an item that prevents Pokemon from evolving. Some things in Pokemon can be silly, but this was outrageous, especially for me who didn't have a lot of people to trade Pokemon with. Possessed Channelers. One of the things that creeped me out the most besides Lavender Town and the Pokemon Tower was the possessed channelers in that place. Some of their dialogues include references to blood, zombies and evil spirits, and the only way to snap them out of their trance is by defeating them. I was about to say that besides Golbat Pokédex entries, this was one of the few mentions of blood in Pokemon, until I entered the word on Bulbapedia and realized there are a lot of blood mentions, although not many in a creepy way. Why did she bring her brother? A third wheel refers to someone who's not wanted or needed in a situation, especially someone who is present with 2 other people who are in a romantic relationship. This perfectly describes the little brother of an NPC in the Celadon Hotel that's visiting the place with her boyfriend. If you talk to the guy, he'll ask why she brought her brother. I guess it wasn't the kind of vacation he was looking for. Karen on weak Pokemon. There are actually very inspirational quotes in Pokemon. Who doesn't remember Meowth saying something about paying more attention to similarities rather than differences between Pokemon and humans? Well, after being defeated, Karen says the following: strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon. That is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with the Pokemon they love best. This brings me back to my childhood playing Pokemon and training my creatures, not based on whether those Pokemon were overused or uber, but on the fact that I liked their design, or maybe I felt some connection to them. Maybe Karen inspired Sejun Park, who won a tournament with a Pachirisu, the Pokemon with the lowest base stat total of any Pokemon that belonged to a team that won a world championship. Munna NPC. All the way back in Gen 1, there's an NPC outside of Mount Moon that complains about the chunkiness of Gen 1 Pokemon and instead wishes for a pink Pokemon with a floral pattern. I think people at Game Freak denied that this NPC inspired Munna's design in black and white, but considering that Munna is the only pink Pokemon with a floral pattern, it's no wonder that people thought that this girl is able to see the future. Petalburg Self-Reflecting NPC. In Petalburg City, we come across an NPC looking at his own reflection in the water. My face is reflected in the water. It's a shining green full of hope. Or it could be a look of somber silence struggling with fear. What do you see reflected in your face? What I think the NPC implies is that no matter how well we think we know ourselves or how we think we feel, we need to self-reflect to truly understand ourselves and how we feel. Retired Team Rocket Grunt in Unova. The Team Rocket Grunt we bump into in the Vermilion City gym in Pokémon Gold, Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the same person we encounter in Iceberg town in the Unova region. In the Johto remix, after we defeat him, he states he'll go back to his home country and revive Team Rocket. However, he started a family and abandons the idea of reviving the criminal organization.
It's over 9,000!
I guess the concept of ki is also a thing in the Pokémon world, because Psychic Robert on Kalos Route 10 says the following after being defeated. Wow, you and your Pokémon's power levels are incredible. They're over 9,000 for sure. With a power level like that, the player and their Pokémon can beat Nappa without breaking a sweat. Just a souvenir shop. Don't touch the poster at the game corner, there's no secret switch behind it. This guy's reverse psychology is unprecedented, because 99.7% of players who play the Kanto games actually went to the Celadon game corner and pressed the switch behind the poster. I have a theory about this Team Rocket Grunt. I think he's the one responsible for writing the signpost next to the souvenir shop in Mahogany Town. The text in question reads the following: just a souvenir shop, nothing suspicious about it, no need to be alarmed. Yeah, especially considering the antenna sticking out of the tree. Endless Healer on Route 111. There's this old woman on Route 111 in Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald that heals your Pokémon for free. Unlike other characters that heal your Pokémon, she'll insist on healing them right after, well, healing them. I guess she represents the typical grandma that worries about you. I tried to heal my Pokémon as many times as possible to see if I could trigger some sort of special event, but of course I got tired after repeating the same action 100 times. The Winstrate family. There's a house located north of Mobile City that is home to the Winstrates, a family of stronger than usual trainers. After defeating them all, we learn of a fifth member that, according to the grandma, may have already become the champion. It isn't until we get to Victory Road that we meet Vito, a cool trainer with level 42 Pokémon. After being defeated, he says that he had never lost a single battle, and that due to his loss against the player, he may go back home because he lost his confidence. Tectonics. One of the most moving moments in the Pokémon games is that time when we come across an NPC that is paying respect to his deceased Onyx on 5 Island. It's true that we've seen other NPCs visiting their Pokémon's graves, such as those in the Pokémon Tower, but the fact that you find this place in the southmost part of an already remote island and that you can place a lemonade to honor a deceased Pokémon make it special. Janine as an NPC. Those who play the Johto games know who Janine is because she's not any unnamed NPC, but the Fuchsia City Gym leader after Koga became a member of the Elite Four. Well, I said she's not any unnamed NPC, but look at this in Pokémon Fire Red and Leaf Green. She says, "My father is the gym leader of this town. I'm training to use poison Pokémon as well as my father." I guess Game Freak added her as an Easter egg for us to figure out who she was. Yes and No Town. You would normally expect to answer yes or no to a close-ended question like, "Are you a low pony trainer?" However, in Pacific Log Town, an NPC asks you where you came from, and your only two options are yes and no. In fact, what's wrong with our character? Because it's them who choose to have those options. It's not like the NPC is forcing us to say yes or no. Anyway, this is an inside joke at Game Freak, because yes in Japanese is hi, and High Town was the name of an apartment building where the staff used years to stay while working on Pokémon Red and Green? If your answer is no, he'll be shocked, wondering if we're gonna say that we were born at the bottom of the sea. I never knew if this was some sort of obscure reference, and I haven't found information on this, so if anybody knows, please let me know in the comment section. Hal and Lois. If you visit C-Mobile in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, there's a young couple that has a 10% chance of giving you a Destiny Knot every time you defeat them after a rematch. Nonetheless, what's interesting about them is that their names are Hal and Lois, most likely based on Malcolm's parents from Malcolm in the Middle. Pokémon with cool knees. I gotta catch more Pokémon. Pokémon with cool knees are so neat. I guess this kid must have a Deoxys and a Nidoking because have you seen how cool these Pokémon's knees are? Well, I know I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that we've never asked ourselves that question, but if you had to pick a Pokémon with the coolest knees, which one would that be? Floatstone Trainer. There's an ace trainer inside a building in Rosboro City that gives us a floatstone, an item that halves the weight of the holder. Not too many people notice this while playing the game, but if you come back to the place where he was, you'll find a hiker in his place. In fact, the hiker is the ace trainer, but because he gave the player the floatstone, he gained a little bit of weight. Psychic Jacqueline. Psychic Jacqueline is one of those minor yet recurrent NPCs in Pokémon. We first meet her on the Seaside Cycling Road in Hoenn, and she has a male level 16 Abra. Nonetheless, if we play Fire Red and Leaf Green, we'll find another Psychic called Jacqueline on Six Island, who happens to have a male Kadabra. She seems surprised to realize that while envisioning her house, she ended up in a remote part of Kanto. It is said that Gen 1 and 3 take place at the same time, but considering that Jacqueline apparently evolved her Abra and leveled it up to a considerable level, it seems that the events in Hoenn take place slightly before Red becomes the champion in Kanto. Ghost Girls. Ghost Girls have been a thing since Gen 4 with the introduction of one of them in the old chateau. Besides her, one of the most memorable shows up in X and Y after exiting an elevator from a building in Lumiose City. She'll mention that the player is not the one. It looks as if the same girl appears in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire as she tells the player the exact same words. If you want to learn more about the Ghost Girl in the Strange House in Black 2 and White 2, I'd recommend checking out my Iceberg on Pokémon Black and White, but basically, we encounter the ghost of a little girl that unfortunately passed away due to the nightmares caused by Darkrai. It's one of the saddest stories because, after reading numerous books on dreams and nightmares, they discovered that the lunar feather was the remedy, but by the time they obtained it, it was already too late to save her. Nothing was ever heard about the girl's parents ever since. In Gen 7, there's a little girl who wants us to solve a series of unexplained mysteries at a school. In the end, everything has a natural explanation, except for the girl, given that a janitor nearby tells us that we've been alone the whole time. In Generation 8, we have Paula, and who entrusts us with delivering a letter to a boy called Frank in Baloney Town, a boy who happens to be a man in his 60s or 70s. The reality is that Paula got sick when she and Frank were kids. She kept it a secret until Frank discovered the truth, leading to an argument between the two. Frank moved away and never heard from her again. Onyx and Cloyster couple. I guess I don't have to explain this one. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, there's a couple, a deeply in love couple that battles you with a female Cloyster and a male Onyx. Okay, I'm kidding, both are male Pokémon, but I mean, it wouldn't have made a huge difference, right? NPCs with illegal moves. Game Freak doesn't follow his own rules because, throughout the generations, we've come across trainers whose Pokémon learn impossible moves. An example I recall is that of cool trainer Diane in Victory Road, whose Lantern knows Earthquake in Pokémon Emerald, but I guess the most popular is Lance's Dragonite with Barrier. This Pokémon would later be given away with the move Barrier, so it's no longer illegal. There are many more examples, but I think those two are the most significant. Terrified Sailor on Naval Rock. If you have the Mystic ticket in Fire Red, Leaf Green or Emerald, you'll get the chance to visit Naval Rock and catch Ho-Oh and Lugia. However, if we speak to the sailor that takes us to the island, he'll appear fearful, judging by what he tells the player. Did you hear that? That low growling from deep in there. Are you sure it's safe? Do you think we should leave? That low growling refers to the legendary Pokémon Lugia. As I said in my Gen 3 Pokémon Anomalies Iceberg, it's no surprise the sailor is terrified of Lugia, considering you can hear it from 14 floors above. Pharmacy in Necrotic City. Most of us who played Gold, Silver and Crystal know that the pharmacy in the Johto region is located in Cyanwood City. Nonetheless, there's a wrong warp located in the top left corner of Olivine City that can be activated through the use of external tools, leading you to the house of an NPC that when spoken to will mention the existence of a pharmacy in Necrotic City. 6 dots open 3 doors. 6 dots open 3 doors. Grandpa used to say that, but I don't know what he meant. This is what an NPC in Pacific Lock Town says to the player, and I know it has to do with the Regis because they're hidden behind 3 doors or entrances. At the beginning I didn't know what the 6 dots referred to, but then I realized that they refer to the maximum number of dots a Braille cell can have. Basically, she's saying that, provided you know how to read Braille, you'll get access to Regirock, Regice and Registeel. Challenger's Cave Legendary Pokémon. In Pokémon Black and White, we can enter Challenger's Cave after beating the Elite Four and Team Plasma. What's interesting about this place is what an ace trainer named Beverly says. Are you the legendary Pokémon that is said to live here? In the story I know, the legendary Pokémon was training its student Pokémon. Interestingly, there's no legendary Pokémon in the cave, and in Black 2 and White 2, the cave's entrance has collapsed. I think that if what Beverly says was true at some point, the legendary Pokémon could have been one of the source of justice, and the student Pokémon would have been none other than Keldeo. Tixie Branch. Real-world locations have been mentioned throughout the Pokémon games, mainly in the Pokédex. However, there's a scientist in Pokémon Red, Blue and Yellow, as well as the remakes, who mentions that Silphco has an overseas branch in Tixie, Russia. The only other mention outside the Pokédex is the sign by the Vermilion City gym that calls Lieutenant Surge the Lightning American. Misty calls her Pokémon stupid. In Pokémon Stadium 2, trainers were given dialogues unlike the first game. I recall being shocked as a 10-year-old when I saw that Misty said stupid when one of her Pokémon was defeated. I thought she was actually calling her Pokémon that for not being able to do well in battle, but I guess she's referring to the situation and not to her Pokémon. Masochist Youngster Joey. We know who Youngster Joey is, but did you know that he's fond of pain? If you beat him for the 4th time, he'll have this to say. And yet another loss. No doubt about it. You're tough. Being beaten this often actually feels good now. It's good he's mainly known for his Rattata, but now you know that he's also a masochist loser. Lady Selfie. In the Lost Cave on 5 Island, we find a rich lady called Selfie, an NPC we escort to her house in Gorgeous Resort. After going through that scary cave and saving her, she says, "Thank you, you may go now." Seconds after, if we enter her house, she'll ask, "Do I know you from somewhere?" But that doesn't matter. I am exquisitely bored, please hear my wish. She then proceeds to ask the player to bring a Pokémon of her choice. If you take more than 250 steps to bring that Pokémon to her presence, she'll say, "I'm tired of this. I'm tired of waiting for you. I'll forgive you this time, but please don't fail me next time." She may be one of the most insufferable NPCs, but what's interesting is what happens if you bring the Pokémon she wishes to see. If you do, her butler Sebastian will show up in an unexpected way. Night Battles. In the Johto games, there are a couple of NPCs that only battle when it's night, such as the officers guarding the vicinity of Goldenrod City. However, there's a very special trainer that only appears in Pokémon Crystal. There's an NPC on Route 39 that says she hopes it gets dark soon. Normally you'd just ignore her and keep going with your life, but if you're curious enough to talk to her at night, she'll challenge you to a battle. After defeating her, she'll say that she met her Meowth at that location and that it likes it to train there. This is a reference to an obscure friendship mechanic that doubles your Pokemon's affinity if it battles at the location you met it. Legends ZA NPCs. I wanna group them under the same entry because these NPCs are something. Some of them don't seem to have an issue communicating their darkest thoughts to a random kid on the street. Others delve into existential topics that leave you thinking for a while. I'm sick and tired of this life. I just wanna smell Pokemon. Hey, for water type moves, do you think Pokemon use their sweat or other bodily fluids? Okay, besides sweat, what other bodily fluids do animals, or in this case Pokemon, excrete? Another day without being reincarnated as a Pokemon. How are you supposed to get rid of Pokemon droppings? I hope he's not putting them in his pockets. My partner bites my butt when we lose in battle. Is that you, Joey? Is that why losing that often feels so good? What disappears is gone, and whatever's left can only remain. Yeah, if you're awake, you're not asleep. Now, let's move on to something a little bit more meaningful. Remember, my young friend, comparison is the thief of joy. Remember, always compare to your former self, never to somebody else. I've got to recapture the wonder from when I first became a trainer. This is especially true for those like me and others who've been playing these games for over 25 years. All these people, and there are still days I don't speak to another soul. Loneliness is a real epidemic in the Pokemon world as well. If it wasn't for this Ferris wheel. One of the NPCs we battle in Nimbasa City states that if it weren't for the Ferris wheel, he wouldn't exist. Does that mean that his parents met there, or because they did something they shouldn't have done in public? You ever had a lover? This is an infamous conversation that takes place on the Ferris wheel between a hiker called Andy and the male protagonist in Pokémon Black and White. It's worth mentioning that this was censored in the English version, but in Japanese, this is what it says. Oh, this is hot and humid, quite like a sauna, boy. Ah, so hot. There's sweat dripping from your skin, boy. By the way, boy, you don't have a lover, right? What kind of thoughts is this hiker having that right after he sees the protagonist sweating, he asks him if he's ever had a lover? This is Sterolic Typhlosion levels of creepiness. The urge of being a Miltank's child. If you get a coffee at a Pokémon Center, the person in charge will chat with you while serving you in Sun and Moon. The dialogue in Japanese says something like this. After just one sip, the mellow yet rich milk will leave you feeling the urge to want to be a Miltank's child. That sounds cute, right? What about the actual text in English? The milk is so mellow yet rich that it'll make you wish your mother were a Miltank. Don't forget to choose your words carefully. Battle Frontier quotes. The Battle Frontier is home to the most fearsome trainers, but also to some of the wildest quotes ever featured in the Pokémon games. Here are some of them. If I win, you can have a sweet kiss. After losing, you want a swift mega kick instead. If I'd known that, I would have lost on purpose. What is that I smell? After losing, it's your offensive stench, that's what. Mew Mew is how I cry. I mimic Pokemon after every battle. After losing, if I lose, I pretend I am a Miltank. I guess somebody wants some Moo Moo milk after a difficult battle. And what is it with Miltank on this iceberg anyway? I will scatter some poison powder about. After losing, I dislike you and your Pokemon. You don't say. I swallow sludge to transform myself. What does he transform into? And what kind of sludge is he swallowing? I hope it's not Mox. Depressing NPCs. If you go to this hotel in Driftvale City in Black 2 and White 2, you'll find this old man on the top floor that says this about Pokémon. 3 years ago, Team Plasma talked me into letting my dear Pokémon go. Ever since, I've been staying in hotels as I please. To be honest, I feel lonely, but it's a good thing not to have Pokémon who'll be left behind and feel sad after I pass away. This actually reminds me of the Anistar City old man in Kalos that asks for a Pokémon for company, and that after we beat the Elite Four, we find out that he's passed away, leaving behind the Pokémon that made him happy until his last breath. Pokémon can be depressing, but the two saddest dialogues in my opinion originate in the Gen 7 games and in Legends ZA respectively. When I think about it, you two are all alone in the world. As if being alone weren't enough, an NPC in Lumiose City has the following to say: "People, Pokémon, we're all going to die someday, aren't we?" Imagine a small child's reaction after reading that everything will come to an end, no matter if you're a Pokémon or a person. Trapped in another dimension. Pokémon Sun and Moon, as well as their Ultra versions, touch on the existence of different dimensions. The first officially recognized character that goes missing while experimenting with Ultra wormholes is Lusamin's husband, Mon. However, there's a letter in a bottle in Kalai Bay written by a boy that says that he's in a weird and unbelievable place, and that in spite of that, all of the people there are nice. He asks whoever reads it to deliver it to his little sister in Iki Town. Well, that little sister is now an old lady, implying that the letter was written around 60 years prior to the events of Sun and Moon. This could mean that decades before Mon discovered the existence of Ultra wormholes, some inhabitants of Alola have seen them or even gone through them, never to come back. Soft-locking NPC. In Pokémon Platinum, there's a house in the middle of the water on Route 226 that has an NPC with a tempting trait, a German Magikarp for your Finian. While at first it doesn't sound like anything bad besides getting a Magikarp, this trait can be dangerous under certain circumstances. If you have a level 100 Finian as the only Pokémon that knows Surf and traded for that Magikarp, you may get into trouble, especially if you don't have another Pokémon with you that knows Teleport or Fly. You can still teach any other Pokémon Surf, but tough luck if none of them can learn it. Well, you have the good rod you used to catch the Finion, so you can fish for Pokémon that can learn Surf, right? Exactly. Except that if your party is full, that Pokémon will be sent to your PC. Thankfully, there's a way to get out of there, and that is by battling wild Pokémon until all your team runs out of power points. This can be difficult if you maxed out your Pokémon's power points, but it's not impossible to escape. In fact, you can always escape because, for you to have a Finion, you need to have a good rod in the first place. The only way you can get stuck forever is if you get a Finion via trade, get to the house with no rods, no rare candies, and Pokémon unable to learn Surf or Fly. Dr. Fuji's Dark Past. To me, Mr. Fuji was only a regular NPC that gave you an item to continue your adventure. However, this old man who took care of Cubone after its mother passed away at the hands of Team Rocket hides a secret. Not only is he Blaine's friend and the founder of the Cinnabar Lab, but also the mastermind behind the creation of Mewtwo. I don't know if this counts for Dr. Fuji in the games because I don't think it's mentioned, but Dr. Fuji worked for Team Rocket, as he was responsible for organizing an expedition to South America, or in the games to Faraway Island to find the mythical Pokémon Mew. If we take the signpost we find on Faraway Island into account, Dr. Fuji was successful at finding Mew and getting its DNA to use it as the basis for creating Mewtwo. We can see evidence of genetic experimentation carried out by Dr. Fuji himself in the Pokémon Mansion. This is confirmed by Blaine in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, as he says that the Pokémon Mansion still holds the remnants of his old friend's research. We know how messed up the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee timeline is, because it mixes elements of Gen 1, the Pokémon Adventures manga if we take Green's appearance into account, but also the anime, more specifically the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin. This is because when we explore the mansion, we come across Mewtwo's cloning tank, as well as 4 additional ones. It could be nothing, but if we think about the other characters in that special, the containers may correspond to the clones of Bulbasaur, Charmander, characters Squirtle and Amber, Dr. Fuji's daughter who tragically passed away in an accident. Glitch City Ghost Girl. Glitch City isn't exclusive to Gen 1, as in Pokémon Crystal, you're able to get to this messy place if you step out of bounds. However, if you follow a very specific path in this place, you'll be spotted by a mysterious NPC that will approach you and speak nonsense. This is what is called the Ghost Girl of Glitch City. As I've mentioned in my Gen 2 Anomalies video, this girl may be the daughter of another NPC who is missing inside the burnt tower in what was supposed to be a side quest that didn't make it into the final game. His dialogue shows that the man is worried about the girl going to that place because people seem to disappear there. This girl, the boy who went missing on Kalai Bay, as well as the eclectic pharmacy girl that lives in another dimension of the game, are by far the loneliest NPCs in the Pokémon universe. Thank you so much for watching. If you like icebergs and video games, check out the Iceberg experience. I've recently uploaded the Super Mario World iceberg, but if you want to watch other video game icebergs, go check it out. See you in the next one.